Welcome back to Shadow Mind, where the lies we tell ourselves are stripped down to their bones and truth walks in, uninvited but necessary. Today, we're talking about a form of violence that goes unnoticed. Not physical, not even verbal, but psychological. And worst of all, it's self-inflicted. You bully your inner child. Yes, you, the grown adult, the strong one, the one who has it together. You keep hurting the most vulnerable part of yourself in ways that are subtle, daily, and deeply corrosive. Why do we punish the part of ourselves that needed love the most? This episode is not about blame. It's about recognition. And if you're willing, transformation. Let's begin with a mirror, not the kind you hang on a wall, but the kind that reflects your thoughts. What do you say to yourself when you mess up? When you're feeling low? When you're scared? Chances are, the voice in your head doesn't speak with compassion. It sounds more like a drill sergeant. Cold, sharp, ruthless. You always screw things up. No one will ever love you if you act like that. You're too emotional. Get over it. Stop crying. You're embarrassing. If those statements hit too close to home, you're not alone. And you're not broken. But you are likely bullying your inner child. It's subtle. It's internal. And because it doesn't leave bruises or scars on the outside, it often goes unchallenged. But the damage? It's real. It's deep. And it's cumulative. Dark psychology calls this internalized abuse when the words and actions of those who hurt us in childhood become the voice we use against ourselves in adulthood. The abuser no longer needs to be in the room. You've taken over their role. That's the insidious nature of trauma. It trains you, conditions you, then leaves you thinking you're in control when you're just following the script they wrote. What's more disturbing? You've learned to call it discipline. You've disguised it as tough love. You even believe it's the only reason you're successful. But here's the truth. You're not thriving, you're surviving. And you've mistaken pressure for power. Your inner child, the part of you that once felt hope, playfulness, vulnerability, and wonder, is still in there. But every time you speak to yourself with contempt or cruelty, you're dragging that child back into emotional isolation. You're telling them they're still not safe, still not lovable, still too much, or not enough. And that's how the cycle continues, quiet, corrosive, and unspoken. This segment isn't about shame. It's about recognition. Because you can't stop what you can't see. So today, see it. See the way you flinch from your own feelings. See how you shut yourself down before anyone else gets the chance. See how you laugh at your pain before anyone else can notice it. That's not strength. That's armor. And just like armor, it keeps everything out, including love, softness, healing. You may have grown up being told to toughen up. But the real toughness? It's in daring to be soft again. With yourself. Especially with the child inside you who only ever wanted to feel safe. Let's go deeper. Let's ask, why did you become your own bully? And what happens when you finally stop? Now we ask the deeper question, why would anyone become their own abuser? The answer isn't just psychological. It's philosophical. Because when pain is too big to understand as a child, the mind doesn't seek truth, it seeks control. And the easiest form of control? Blame yourself. If I deserve the pain, then the world makes sense. If I was the problem, then I can fix it. This is where internalized cruelty is born, not from hatred, but from a desperate need for order in a chaotic emotional landscape. Philosophy calls this the rise of the inner tyrant, a voice inside that turns the chaos of your childhood into laws of self-oppression. Don't trust anyone. Don't feel too much. Don't ask for help. Don't be weak. It's a survival response turned into a belief system. It says, if I'm hard on myself, no one else can hurt me. But this is a lie dressed up as wisdom. This inner tyranny rests from the inside, hollowing out your emotional core. It trains you to mistake numbness for safety and isolation for independence. You stop needing abusers because you've become more efficient than they ever were. Yet here's the twist. Your inner child isn't the weak one. They're the most honest version of you, the one who felt deeply and still stood back up. When you bully that child, you silence the last part of you still capable of real connection, truth, and healing. So the question becomes, will you keep living by laws built from trauma? Or will you choose something harder and freer? Compassion. Breaking the cycle doesn't begin with healing. It begins with noticing. You can't heal what you still deny. The first step? Catch the voice. That cruel whisper that shows up when you're tired, when you mess up, when you're vulnerable. You're so stupid. You always ruin everything. No wonder no one stays. Pause. Ask yourself, would I say this to a child? If the answer is no, then you're not being honest. You're being programmed. You didn't invent this voice. It came from somewhere. A parent, a teacher, an abuser, a society that equates self-worth with productivity. But now it has your face. And that's what makes it so dangerous. The second step? Interrupt the pattern. When the script begins, change the line. Instead of, what's wrong with me? Try, what am I feeling underneath this? Instead of, stop being so dramatic. Say, I'm allowed to feel this. Something in me is trying to speak. This isn't about replacing cruelty with fake positivity. It's about introducing truth. Truth doesn't coddle, but it doesn't destroy either. Create space. Not just time, emotional space. Space to rest, to cry, to feel joy without guilt. This is not weakness. This is reparenting the part of you that never had a soft place to land. Your inner child doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. And yes, it'll feel uncomfortable. Because if all you've ever known is hardness, then softness will feel dangerous. But discomfort is not the same as danger. Sometimes it's just the growing pains of becoming whole again. Dark psychology reminds us, the mind will cling to even toxic patterns if they feel familiar. Because the unfamiliar, even if it's love, feels like a threat to the known self. But you're not a child anymore. You get to choose what voice you live by. So speak with tenderness. Protect the part of you that once had no protector. And above all, show up. Not with perfection, but with compassion. This is how the cycle ends. Not with a dramatic breakthrough, but with a quiet, consistent decision. I will no longer be my own bully. And now we arrive at the edge of something tender. Not a conclusion, but a reckoning. You've heard the voice in your head for so long, you believed it was you. But it wasn't. It was learned. And if it was learned, it can be unlearned. The child inside you, the one who cried silently, who hid their feelings to keep the peace, who tried to be good enough to be loved, that child is still waiting. Not for you to be perfect. Not for you to fix everything. But for you to finally say, I see you. And I won't abandon you again. You don't need to heal overnight. You don't need to forgive everyone. You don't even need to be okay all the time. You just need to stop being your own enemy. Speak to yourself the way you wish someone had spoken to you. With care, with curiosity, with courage. Dark psychology tells us that the deepest wounds are often the most invisible. And philosophy reminds us that growth begins in awareness, not in denial. So next time you hear that inner critic rising, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, whose voice is this? And then choose to speak differently. Not because you're weak, but because you're done surviving. You're ready to live. This is what Shadow Mind stands for. Not surface comfort, but raw awareness. The kind that hurts, but heals. Because healing isn't always light and love. Sometimes it's shadow and truth. And sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is to be kind to the version of you that never got the kindness they deserved. So tonight, speak gently. Let your heart exhale. And remember, you're not broken. You were just unheard. Until next time, stay aware. Stay soft where it hurts. And above all, stay human. This is Shadow Mind, where your darkness is not your weakness. It's your way through.